Joining me now is Bracken Darrell, CEO of Logitech. Bracken, is always a pleasure. So I have to ask, Logitech's climate strategy is set to be in place 20 years earlier than other companies that committed to carbon neutrality as per the Paris Agreement. So why now? Why the rush?
You know, we've been working, it hasn't been a rush from a work standpoint. We've been working on this for a decade. But as we continue to watch what's happening around the world, we just felt such a sense of urgency. And our program on climate is really built into the purpose of the company. So we've been working very hard to get in a position where we'll be carbon neutral this year and climate positive 2030 and beyond.
So let me ask you, what are the steps that Logitech is taking to meet this goal?
Well, we're doing a lot of things. First, we're redesigning our products. So one by one, to reduce the amount of overall carbon they put out. For example, we launched our G40 435 headset that took 40% of the carbon out. That's end-to-end, all scopes, 1, 2, and 3, for those of you who understand what that means. And from the components all the way to the end of life for the user. The second thing we're doing is we're really trying to move completely to renewable electricity. We're now at 92% renewable electricity in our total system, from our factories to our offices to everywhere. And we're going to go to 100. That's the game plan. And then the final, the final one is to move more and more to consumer recycled plastic and to begin to use offsets or investments in forestry conservation. So we've been investing in forestry conservation in Indonesia. We're now doing it in China. We'll be doing it other places. So it's a three-pronged program, and we're going to pour it on between now and 2030.
So what are some of the challenges you may face for this plan, like when it comes to supply chain, for storage, and what about disposal?
You know, I think there are challenges to work on, but the main message I'd like to leave is that it can be done. And it doesn't have to be terribly expensive, and it doesn't have to require a tremendous amount of resources. It requires focus and dedication and building it into the purpose of the company. But there are challenges. I mean, I think they're redesigning products. One of the challenges in the world of reducing carbon in existing products is just finding alternatives that really can be created with less carbon. You know, there are elements of chipsets right now that just aren't great alternatives. That said, we're recycling more and more. We're using recycled material more and more. Over 50% of our current mice and keyboards have recycled plastic in them. We'll take that up to 100% over time. So it can be done.
When it comes to the redesign, what are the biggest surprises you've uncovered while redesigning your products to be more carbon neutral?
You know, I think I think one of them is just expecting more from your suppliers. You know, the bigger you are, the more demanding you can be. And I think for larger companies, if they simply say, you know, we're going to expect you to move to renewable electricity now, like in the next 3 months, it's amazing what an impact a company, even of our size, can have on its supply chain. And I think that's probably one of the highest leverage points.
So what does the future of consumer electronics, the industry as a whole, what does that look like to you by 2050?
You know, I think by 2050, the world will be very different. I think all consumer electronics companies will be carbon neutral. Many, including us, 20 years ahead of that, will be climate positive. And I think the world will be a much, much better and safer place.
When it comes to some of your products, you have things like weights in some of your mouses and some of your mice. You also have, batteries in some of your other products. Have you looked at that to see what kind of changes you can make there to make them more efficient and also carbon neutral?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the things we are trying to do is remove weight from our packaging, from our products, because weight equals more expensive products or more carbon creating products, and also more carbon to move them logistically. So our super light mouse, for example, 65 grams, it's an incredibly light mouse. It's like picking up a pencil. It also is very competitive. So it's actually a win-win. The users like it because it's a very light mouse, and the planet will like it because it's good for the planet. But I think when it comes to batteries, this is a big challenge. You know, the whole world faces this challenge. You know, we use more and more batteries every day, lithium batteries, and they're not great from a carbon standpoint yet. But there's a lot of innovation going on around the world to try to address that. And I suspect certainly by 2050, we'll solve it.
How will you address the folks that are habitual when it comes to products? Like for me, if my G502 breaks, I buy another G502 because that's what I like, that's what I want. How do you address them when they might not be able to get the same product because there is these redesigns, there are these changes?
Well, we're working really hard to redesign them so the consumers love them, but we still get to carbon neutral and then ultimately climate positive. So you're not going to have to make a choice on, oh no, I can't have my product anymore. I'm going to have my product and it's going to be good for the environment. That's exactly where we are now. We're we're carbon neutral right now this year. So if you buy our products, you're dealing with a carbon neutral company. And by 2030, you'll be climate positive. So no matter what you buy, you're dealing with somebody who's going to make sure that it's good for the environment.
When it comes to carbon offsets, what are some considerations? What are some thoughts that came up?
I think that one of them is we just need to make sure that we're really tracing this all the way down to the tree. We want to make sure that these are legitimate ways to remove carbon from the air. There's not much more effective from a technology standpoint than a tree in removing carbon from the air or putting oxygen into it, by the way. So we're just, but the most important thing about carbon offsets is they're a temporary measure, to be honest. I mean, we really want to get to the point where the technologies are available to reduce all carbon from products as they come out. We should live like ants, where everything is biodegradable. We have a long way to go to do that as an industry and as a company, but that's the goal.
My last question, personal question: when are you guys going to make a streaming mic? Like just a streaming mic, a microphone that's streaming, like a dynamic microphone, so we could use for streaming.
I'm surrounded by secret products that we haven't launched yet, and I can't say whether that's one of them.
Okay, it's on the way, maybe? Maybe not, we'll see. It'll be carbon neutral, right?
My team would put me in the penalty box if I talked about any of our products that are not out yet.
All right, well, I tried. I appreciate it. Bracken Darrell, CEO of Logitech. It's always great to see you, sir, and I'm glad what you're doing there, saving the planet and saving folks when it comes to their gaming and business.